Today on Christian World News, a major victory for human rights, why the United Nations ditches a pro-Islamic resolution.
Plus, spreading the gospel in Russia, how one group is equipping the next generation for full-time ministry.
And Christians going underground in Vietnam, how they are seeking shelter from religious persecution. An important victory for religious freedom in the United Nations. Hello, everyone. I'm George Thomas.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. Religious rights advocates are praising Muslim nations for dropping a UN resolution that restricted free speech. Since 1999, the UN Council on Human Rights annually approved a resolution forbidding defamation of religions. Critics said it mainly protected Islam. As Gary Lane explains, that changed this year.
Human rights advocates long opposed the resolution because it targeted speech, not behavior, and because it protected the rights of a religion rather than individuals. Furthermore, the resolution was sponsored by a group of Muslim nations called the Organization of the Islamic Conference. Some say it favored Islam.
This defamation of religion has nothing to do with protecting religious freedom. In fact, to the contrary, what it does is isolate and protect Islam from criticism, which means those that are engaged in the proclamation of the gospel to members of the Muslim faith would be guilty of violating a UN resolution.
Critics say it gave cover to harsh blasphemy laws, which forbid criticism of Islam, the Quran, or the Prophet Muhammad. In Pakistan, those laws have been used to persecute Christians and other religious minorities.
Simple Christian activities like praying, worshiping, and sharing one's belief in Jesus Christ with a neighbor can be interpreted as offensive and therefore restricted.
Indeed, it was Pakistan that took the lead within the OIC to sponsor the defamation resolution. But this year, the OIC did not bring up the resolution. Instead, it offered one based on terms advocated by Western religious rights groups. The new resolution emphasizes protecting individuals from discrimination or violence because of their faith. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Thanks, Gary. The American Center for Law and Justice fought the resolution for years, and the ACLJ's Jordan Secular joins us now from our Washington bureau. Jordan, what were the problems with the old resolution, and how is this new one an improvement?
Well, there are two basic problems with the old resolution, which wasn't really passed this year because of the upsurge in violence against those who express support for a minority faith who may happen to be Muslim or Christians themselves in predominantly Muslim countries. It really is all about Islam, and that's what the defamation of religion resolution was about. The first thing is that it criminalized proclaiming the gospel, and it allowed these countries under a resolution from a Human Rights Council to do just that, because standing on a street corner in a place like Pakistan with a blasphemy law and saying Jesus is the only way to heaven, you'd violate the blasphemy law. And then there was a UN Human Rights Council resolution that had been passed by the General Assembly before that said, hey, it's okay to criminalize things like blasphemy. So first, it's a victory for those who want to be able to proclaim the gospel, at least to get those laws on the books. And so it's not a cover anymore, George, for these predominantly Muslim countries who want to stifle any other religious speech that they don't happen to agree with, including even minority Muslim speech within other countries.
And as my colleague Gary Lane pointed out in this piece, Pakistan pushed the old resolution. That country, as you know, recently has come under tremendous fire for its blasphemy laws, especially after the two officials were murdered for speaking out against these draconian laws. How big a part did those events play in this change?
The most important part. We're an NGO at the United Nations, so our government affairs team in D.C. also works the diplomatic angle in New York and in Geneva through our office in Strasbourg. And those two incidents in Pakistan led to the reason why the OIC did not even try to push it this time. And let me just say, George, that if we continue to get these stories out, and that's what Christian World News does, and the cases that we're working on at the ACLJ with our office in Pakistan, where the blasphemy law is so well known now throughout the world, it's because we're talking about the stories. We're not afraid to condemn the government and the officials at the local and even the federal level for not doing enough to protect their own citizens. And if we keep telling these stories, and at a minimum, even though we may represent the victims, at least let people know what's happening to minority faith members across the world, we can continue to stop the defamation of religion resolution, which legalizes the persecution of minority faiths. And I'll say this as well. People need to understand the OIC is not done here. This was not good timing because of what happened in Pakistan specifically. But in no way, and they've already said this, the representatives out of Saudi Arabia, are they done fighting for another defamations resolution.
You mentioned the OIC. It is called the Organization of Islamic Conference. They're the folks that pushed the old resolution for years. Briefly, we just have a few seconds here. What can you tell us about this group and its aims in the United Nations as you see the countries here represented on the map?
It is the second largest intergovernmental organization in the world, only second to the United Nations itself. So the voting bloc inside the UN is the most important and influential. 57 member states who can vote on these resolutions. And though the Muslim world can be divided on many issues, when it comes to this issue of rights and freedoms and liberties and how to protect themselves against international prosecution, they suddenly all unite together. And that's really the threat of the Organization of the Islamic Conference. It's a dangerous group, and its impact at the United Nations is second only to the UN itself.
Wow. Okay, terrific. Always a pleasure to have you on our show. Jordan Secular of the American Center for Law and Justice, doing some incredible work on behalf of persecuted Christians around the world. Sir, as always, thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Wendy.
The international coalition supporting Libya's rebels is considering giving arms and training to those forces. The international no-fly zone has not kept Muammar Gaddafi's army from driving the rebels back. Now, some question if they are big enough and strong enough to beat Gaddafi. Others claim that al-Qaeda and Hezbollah fighters are in the ranks. Meanwhile, Christians in Libya hope the revolt could result in new freedoms. Tina Kahush just returned from Benghazi. He says Christians there believe the time is right to bring gospel literature and other resources into the country.
In the history of Libya, there hasn't been an openness to the gospel, in the recent history. But what the team that I was with, we were able to bring in a lot of good material into the country, and there is plans over the next 2-3 weeks to bring in as much material into the country to make it available for the right opportunity to distribute. There's a lot of people who were praying, and we felt God's Spirit covering us, and we never felt any fear about ourselves, but we felt very encouraged, and we wanted to stand in the gap. The reason there were lots of prayers going on for Libya inside and outside, and I believe God's going to honor those prayers.
Libya's Christians make up only about 3% of the population.
Bibles are not welcomed by the Islamic regime in Iran. The government there seized and burned 600 New Testaments in the city of Salmas. Now comes word from Christian Solidarity International that 5 Christians imprisoned in Shiraz are to be tried for blasphemy. They are currently serving 1-year terms for, quote, crimes against the Islamic order.
Coming up on Christian World News, training the next generation, how one group in Russia is teaching young people to spread the gospel.
We asked CBN.com users how we could make our website easier to use, and we listened.
This is really easy to read and move through.
The information opens up a whole lot quicker.
Yeah, it's much faster.
There's everything I'm interested in right here. The click of a mouse.
The new CBN.com has been redesigned, making it faster to find your favorite 700 Club stories, musical guests, our online community, and special features.
Anyone can enjoy this new site.
Visit the new CBN.com today.
Hi, I'm Gordon Robertson. Jesus told us that if we have faith, we can speak to the mountain and it will move. Are there mountains in your life that you're currently facing? How do you break through the limits of your faith and see the miracles God has promised you in His Word? My father and I have put together a special teaching, The Law of Expectation. In it, you'll discover how to train your heart and mind to expect great things.
In this latest DVD, The Law of Expectation, Pat and Gordon Robertson bring you powerful principles of thought and behavior that can transform your life. You'll discover the power of expectations in your life, how to break through the limits of your faith, and what it means to agree with God and receive His favor and abundance.
Get the law of expectation and learn to expect and experience the wonderful blessings God has for you.
I was always on the cusp of exploding. So I figured out if I get rid of the wife and the kids, then I can just send them money. Went to the junk drawer, I got the Bible out, put the tape in, and I believe that moment, Christ made sense. There is no earthly reason why we're still married. It is a divine intervention, and I thank God, and showing me what love, grace, and forgiveness looks like.
20 years ago, the fall of communism in Russia ushered in a new era of religious freedom, and Christianity began to spread.
Yeah, historic. And since then, you know, one group that is focused on sharing the gospel with the next generation. Here's my report from Southeast Russia. On a small hillside village,
my parents abandoned me when I was 6.
Some 2,500 miles southeast of Moscow.
I've been here for 9 years, and I've kind of gotten used to it.
15-year-old Vanya Zakharov and dozens of orphaned boys and girls watch a presentation of Bible stories through drama and music.
I'm so glad these people came here. This has made my day.
Mordvinova Svetlana and a team of Russian and Moldovan Christians are visiting Vanya's orphanage in southeast Siberia.
We focus on children because they are the future of this country.
Svetlana and the others on the team are part of a large group of young men and women training to be next-generation Christian leaders.
The key is to recruit young people.
Bulichev Ivan pastors an evangelical church in Minusink, Russia. For the last few years, he's used his church as a training center to recruit, teach, and prepare young people for full-time ministry.
We run a program called Schools Without Walls. Each year, hundreds of people across Russia and in neighboring countries enroll in a 2-year program on how to be effective communicators of the gospel message.
Schools Without Walls is an initiative of Russian ministries which focuses on bringing the gospel to the former Soviet Union. Last year, more than 2,000 students from over 250 churches in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan enrolled in the classes. Mikhailo Cherenkov is with Russian ministries.
Sharing the gospel in Russia is not easy. Sure, it has become easier since the fall of communism, but now so many people are obsessed with materialism and making money that they don't have time to focus on spiritual matters. So our main focus is to motivate young people for active ministry to go out share their faith in the culture.
19-year-old Vera Vasilikova is among those enrolled in Schools Without Walls. When she's not in class, you'll find her and many of her classmates involved in various evangelistic outreaches.
Schools Without Walls helps me to articulate my faith. I used to be scared about sharing the gospel with others, not anymore. The classes give us the theological foundation. The outreach ministries provide the practical training.
And the students are seeing the fruits. On a recent Thursday morning, members of Schools Without Walls in Minusink performed a musical at an area high school, drawing the praise of the school's principal.
I'm not a Christian, but the message was very encouraging. Our young people deal with a lot of challenges like drugs, sex, alcohol. The Christian values these young people bring are good and should be shared.
Pastor Bulichev says he wants his students to remember and learn from Russian Christians who sacrificed their lives in the early days to seeing the gospel preached throughout the land. October 29th, 1937, here deep in the forests of Minusink, Russia, 22 Christian pastors were executed by KGB officers, their bodies buried right here. They were killed for one sole reason, because they were Christians. Today, a memorial to remember what happened that horrific day.
Those pastors sacrificed their lives for Jesus. They're the seedbed of the church. Our youngsters know that the baton of faith has been passed down to them.
And so today across the former Soviet Union, young men and women are rising to the challenge and willing to spread the gospel and expand God's kingdom in this part of the world.
Wow, George, the Russian ministries, they're doing some incredible work.
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, they go to the hinterlands of Russia, to some of these very, very cold places, and they really have a passion to share the gospel with these young folks. And the fruits are, you can see in the folks who are part of the Schools Without Walls ministry. And on that very note, you know, you can find out more reports from Russia and learn more about Russian ministries and its work in the former Soviet Union at our website, cwnews.org.
Up next, tortured for their faith, how Christians in Vietnam are finding shelter underground.
We asked CBN.com users how we could make our website easier to use, and we listened.
This is really easy to read and move through.
The information opens up a whole lot quicker.
Yeah, it's much faster.
There's everything I'm interested in right here. The click of a mouse.
The new CBN.com has been redesigned, making it faster to find your favorite 700 Club stories, musical guests, our online community, and special features.
Anyone can enjoy this new site.
Visit the new CBN.com today.
Hi, I'm Gordon Robertson. Jesus told us that if we have faith, we can speak to the mountain and it will move. Are there mountains in your life that you're currently facing? How do you break through the limits of your faith and see the miracles God has promised you in His Word? My father and I have put together a special teaching, The Law of Expectation. In it, you'll discover how to train your heart and mind to expect great things.
In this latest DVD, The Law of Expectation, Pat and Gordon Robertson bring you powerful principles of thought and behavior that can transform your life. You'll discover the power of expectations in your life, how to break through the limits of your faith, and what it means to agree with God and receive His favor and abundance.
Get the Law of Expectation and learn to expect and experience the wonderful blessings God has for you.
I was always on the cusp of exploding. So I figured out if I get rid of the wife and the kids, then I can just send them money. Went to the junk drawer, I got the Bible, I'll put the tape in, and I believe that moment, Christ made sense. There is no earthly reason why we're still married. It is a divine intervention, and I thank God, and showing me what love, grace, and forgiveness looks like.
And welcome back to the broadcast. The group Human Rights Watch is calling for the United States State Department to put Vietnam back on the list of the world's worst religious rights violators. The group is protesting the abuse of tribal Christians in the rural highlands.
Reporter Denise Lottie went undercover with a team from Voice of the Martyrs to find those believers. Her report comes to us courtesy of Canada's 100 Huntley Street.
Firmly in the grip of globalization, the Vietnamese are trying to keep up as fast as they can. But the people are also firm in the grip of a one-party system that has control over every area of life, including faith.
Facing criticism from the outside, the Vietnamese government has made efforts to improve its reputation by allowing Christian churches such as this one to register. The problem is when a church registers, it forfeits control of when it meets, how often, and even who its pastor is.
That's why many Christians are going underground. This place is a secret refuge for men and women from the most persecuted area of Vietnam, the mountain region. Here they come to worship together and study the Bible. The men here today are from several tribes. Some are illiterate, some are former addicts, and some former witch doctors. Each had an encounter with God that changed the course of their life. And now they want to learn more about Him. What they also share is the experience of religious persecution. We've hidden their identities for their own protection. The threat of arrest, or worse, is very real. One of the men, Khan, shows me how local policemen arrested him and hung him by his thumbs.
They took me to the station and they tortured me. They used something to tie my thumb and one of my toes and hung me on the wall for 3 hours.
He can barely hide the pain of that moment. Until 15 years ago, Christianity was virtually unheard of among certain tribes. Today, the people in the tribal areas make up Vietnam's fastest growing church. Following Christ has meant much trouble for Minh. He had practiced idol worship his whole life, but when he got sick, he couldn't find relief.
In March last year, I was sick, and I didn't have enough money to buy the sacrifice to the gods. So I asked one of the Christians to pray for me, and God healed me. Since that time, people hate me because I don't do the sacrifice anymore.
He destroyed the idols, which angered many in his community. He was also brutally beaten by the police. He's not fighting back. Instead, he's equipping himself to teach and preach the salvation and love he found. As these men study the Bible, they discover that being persecuted for following Jesus is nothing new. Though Peter has been arrested many times for going out to preach, he takes his persecution in stride.
The government says there is freedom of religion, but there is a lot of persecution among Christians and other tribes. But I always have freedom because it doesn't matter what they allow us or not. I will do what I am called to do.
I ask him why they are so persecuted while other churches in the world are not.
I think one of the reasons people are not persecuted is because the church hasn't sent people out to evangelize. The reason we are persecuted is because we are active and are sending people out to evangelize.
Todd Nettleton says it's a common thread in the story's Voice of the Martyrs documents.
As we've talked to them about persecution, they almost seem surprised that we're asking about it, because to them it's normal. That's what it means to follow Christ. Several of them have made the statement, well, Christ suffered, so if we follow him, we'll suffer too.
What will happen to the Church of Vietnam is uncertain. As the government continues to face pressure from the outside, more freedoms may come. These people aren't holding their breath, but they are speaking up. Not for their rights, but for the faith they hold and the God they love, even if it costs them their lives. For CBN News, Denise Lottie, Vietnam.
Thanks, Denise. And please remember to pray for the persecuted church. When we come back, friends and family look back on the life of a woman who spent her life in service to God.
Let Superbook take your kids on an amazing adventure. Back to the beginning of time.
Then God said, "Let there be light."
Come explore with Chris.
Anything I can do to help?
Joy.
Where are we?
And Gizmo.
I am too scared to look.
As they experience the wonder of creation.
We call this Eden.
Encounter temptation.
Chris, do not do it!
And learn important truths from the Bible. For your gift of $25 or more, you'll receive a special edition of Superbook's newest DVD, In the Beginning, Superbook trading cards, and help fund future Superbook episodes.
It's amazing.
Give the kids you love a gift they'll watch over and over. Superbook. It's superpower for super kids.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Christian World News, your window to the global church. For stories of revival,
Another revival.
persecution,
relatives and fellow Christians mourn him.
The first country over the international date
I'm
line.
George Thomas in Baghdad, and coming up on the broadcast, an exclusive interview.
and the impact of Christian leaders. Watch Christian World News.
Terrorists recently bombed a bus station in Jerusalem, the first major terror attack there in 7 years. The explosion killed a Christian volunteer who arrived there just a few weeks before.
And news of her ultimate death has gone around the world. Here's CBN News' Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem.
On March 23rd, terror once again struck the streets of Jerusalem. The bomb wounded dozens and killed 55-year-old Mary Gardner, a Scottish citizen. She was a student in a 6-month program run by Hebrew University's Rothberg International School in conjunction with the Home for Bible Translators. 4 days after the bombing, friends and family gathered here at the Home for Bible Translators in the Judean Hills just outside of Jerusalem to remember Mary Gardner, her life and legacy. Halva Ronning, the director of the Home for Bible Translators, led the service.
My opening prayer was just exactly that her kind of dedication would come through in a way that would be inspirational to us to continue her work, and that there will be others to step into her shoes and even multiply the work that she's done.
Gardner spent 20 years in the East African nation of Togo with Wycliffe Bible translators, translating the Bible into the language of Ife.
She definitely dedicated her life to that sense that God loves her and it's too big to keep to herself. She wanted to share it.
Her legacy is that gift to people who speak that language, that they are able to read the scriptures that she believed in so deeply herself.
Reverend Mercia Malcolm has been Mary's friend since 1973.
But for those of us who knew her and who loved her, there is a legacy of deep friendship and affection and joy when we think of her, and laughter and delight in who she was.
But many have asked the question, why? Some believe part of the answer may lie in what happened at the scene of the bombing. Moments before the explosion, 3 children from Yad HaShmonah, the community where the Home for Bible Translators is located, rode up on a bus just a few feet away from the bomb. According to eyewitnesses, Mary absorbed most of the blast.
I'm convinced that the fact that she absorbed most of the shrapnel and was so close to the bomb, and the kids were just on the bus that was stopping at the bus stop, that their lives were saved.
Yasmin Bar David was one of those children on the bus.
It's hard for me to imagine that that's actually what she did for me, that like nothing happened to me or to my friend or to people that were there. And I just want to thank her if I could.
Mary's life ended suddenly, but her friends and family believe her life's work, dedicated to translating the Bible, will live on. In this 2009 recording, Mary talked about her work.
God has given me the privilege of being someone He has used to give 200,000 people a translation of the New Testament in their own language. The Bible is a key tool that God has given us to follow Him, to serve Him, and to fulfill His commission. As the Ife would say, Odai tukusefunge, that means may God bless you.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Home for Bible Translators.
Incredible.
Wow, sure
that
is.
Many people now can read the Bible because she lived.
Yeah. Well, we have taken you around the world this week. I hope you've enjoyed our broadcast. Please join us again next week. We've got inspiring stories, more and more inspiring stories for you to see. Well, that's all from all of us here at Christian World News. Until next week, goodbye.
And God bless you.